Scroll of Wisdom. By Sadi. Editorial Note. The object of the editors of this series is a very definite one. They desire above all things that, in their humble way, these books shall be the ambassadors of goodwill and understanding between East and West, the old world of thought, and the new of action. In this endeavor, and in their own sphere, they are but followers of the highest example in the land. They are confident that a deeper knowledge of the great ideals and lofty philosophy of Oriental thought may help to a revival of that true spirit of charity which neither despises nor fears the nations of another creed and color. Finally, in thanking press and public for the very cordial reception given to the Wisdom of the East series, they wish to state that no pains have been spared to secure the best specialists for the treatment of the various subjects at hand. L. Cranmer Bung. S. A. Kapadia. The Orient Press. 4. Harcourt Buildings. Inner Temple. London. How do you find this book? Any thoughts about the book or the author? Any suggestion for improvement? Please take a moment to share your thoughts in a comment. If you like it, share it with your friends who might enjoy it as well. Subscribe to keep in touch. Visit CompleteAudiobooks.com for more quality content. Introduction. Sheikh Musliuddin Sadi, the celebrated Persian poet, was born at Shiraz between the years 1175 and 1193 of the Christian era. His father, whose name was Abdullah, is generally supposed to have held some minor post about the court of the Atabak ruler of Fars, by name Saad bin Zangi, AD 1195 to 1226, from whom was derived the poetical nom de plume of Sadi. He commenced his studies in his native city, whence after a while he removed to the Mohammedan College of Baghdad, where it chanced that a rich native gentleman, being informed of the young student's want of means, befriended the lad, who was fortunate enough to obtain assistance, also, from a professor in the college. In due course Sadi gained a fellowship. He thereupon abandoned himself to a contemplative life and the study of divinity, while his pious and devotional aspirations found vent in a pilgrimage to Mecca, an act of holy zeal which he repeated no less than 14 times, chiefly on foot. Of a religious disposition, Sadi in due course obtained a reputation for holiness, which culminated in the title of Sheikh, a man of dignity in position, by which he became generally known. For many years his life was devoted largely to travel. This, indeed, may be gathered from his own words: I have wandered to various regions of the world, and everywhere have I mixed freely with the inhabitants. I have gathered something in each corner, I have gleaned an ear from every harvest. 1. On another occasion we learn from his own narrative that he was so enraged at the pagan rites practiced at the renowned temple of Somnath in Gujarat that he incontinently threw the priest headlong into a well. An anecdote related by himself reveals the next important event in his career. Weary of the society of my friends at Damascus, I fled to the barren wastes of Jerusalem and associated with brutes, until I was made captive by the Franks too and forced to dig clay, along with Jews, in the fortifications of Tripoli. One of the nobles of Aleppo, my ancient friend, happened to pass that way, and recollected me. He said, "What a state is this to be in? How farest thou?" I answered, "Seeing that I could place confidence in God alone, I retired to the mountains and wilds, to avoid the society of man. But judge what must be my situation, now that I am confined in a stall in company with wretches who deserve not the name of men. To be chained by the feet with friends is better than to be free to walk in a garden with strangers." He took compassion on my forlorn condition, ransomed me from the Franks for 10 dinars, and took me with him to Aleppo. My friend had a daughter, to whom he married me, and presented me with 100 dinars 3 as her dower. After some time my wife unveiled her disposition, which was ill-tempered, quarrelsome, obstinate, and abusive, so that the happiness of my life vanished. It has been well said, a bad woman in the house of a virtuous man is his hell, even in this world. Take care how you connect yourself with a bad woman. Save us, O Lord, from this fiery trial. Sadi was an adept at repartee, 2 instances will suffice. Once his wife reproached him with the following taunt: art not thou the creature whom my father ransomed from captivity amongst the Franks for 10 dinars? Yes, was the rejoinder. He redeemed me for 10 dinars, and enslaved me to you for 100. On another occasion, when a poet at Tabriz, taking offense at the intrusion of his rival Sadi, asked the latter, somewhat abruptly, whence come you? From the delightful soil of Shiraz, was the rejoinder. Indeed, was the sarcastic retort of the questioner, the Shirazis in Tabriz are more numerous than dogs. The very reverse of our city, so spake the quick-witted poet of Shiraz, where Tabrizis are of less account than dogs. The contest of satire was not however at an end, and after a pause the man of Tabriz renewed the attack by drawing attention to the baldness of his rival's head. Turning up a vessel that chanced to be in his hand, how comes it, said he, that the heads of the Shirazis are bald like the bottom of this bowl? By the same rule, was the prompt and bitter rejoinder, that the heads of the Tabrizis are as empty as the hollow of the bowl. Nothing daunted by the misfortunes attendant on his first marriage, Sadi during his travels in Arabia wedded a second spouse, with whom it may perhaps be surmised he lived on affectionate terms, judging, at least, from the anguish of soul with which he recorded the death of his youthful child, the offspring of this union. It is, however, open to doubt whether Sadi experienced a very large measure of domestic happiness, inasmuch as in one of his poems he gives the advice, choose a fresh wife every spring, on New Year's Day. For the almanac of last year is good for nothing. His liberality in entertaining guests was so great and lavish, that on one occasion a rival poet, whom he had regaled with most princely hospitality, despairing of returning in any adequate manner the profuse generosity of his former host, set before the man of letters, now a guest, the plainest and simplest of dishes. The explanation of this proceeding was couched in somewhat remarkable language. I should have found great difficulty in giving you even one day's dinner in the sumptuous style that reigned at your hospitable board during the 3 days which I had the happiness of passing with you. But in this, my economical mode of entertainment, I could indulge myself for years in the pleasure of your society, without feeling the expense. In the latter part of his life Sadi retired to a cell near Shiraz, where he passed his time in pious devotions, and in receiving visits from the noblest of the land. It was the custom of his illustrious visitants, writes Sir Gore Ouseley, to take with them meats and all kinds of viands, of which, when Sadi in his company had partaken, the sheikh always put what remained in a basket suspended from his window, that the poor woodcutters of Shiraz, who daily passed his cell, might occasionally satisfy their hunger. It is said, and firmly believed in Persia, that one day a man dressed as a woodcutter approached the basket, with the intent of plundering, but ere his hand reached its contents it dried up and withered. Concluding that it was a miracle worked by the sheikh, the offender cried out to him for assistance. The holy man, in a reproving tone, said, If thou art a woodcutter, where are thy blistered hands, thy wounds from thorns, and thy labor-worn frame? Or if a robber, where is thy climbing rope, thy arms, and thy hardened boldness that should have restrained thee from thus moaning and crying? He however took compassion on the hapless culprit, offered up a prayer for the restoration of his arm, and even bestowed upon him, with a proper admonition, a portion of the viands which he had in vain attempted to carry off by stealth. When the Atabaks were replaced by the Mughal dynasty of Persia, A.D. 1256, it chanced that the military commander of Shiraz compelled the greengrocers and market people of the city to purchase at the hands of their rulers, for a large amount, some dates which had but a nominal value. The matter was brought to the notice of Sheikh Sadi, who thereupon addressed a letter in verse to the Mughal governor, pointing out that the poet's brother was so poor that he has no trousers on his legs. And yet he has been compelled to buy dates at an exorbitant price. A worse misfortune than this, it was added, there is not. The appeal was successful, and not only were dates given free of charge to the sheikh's impoverished brother, but a paltry sum was placed at his disposal as a gift from the governor on learning that the man was poor. When the second of the Mughal monarchs of Persia ascended the throne, A.D. 1265, he chanced one day, in company with some of his ministers, to meet Sadi, and was astonished to find that the poet received at the hands of these ministers more consideration than was extended to himself, albeit a royal personage. Inquiring the cause of a circumstance so strange, His Majesty was asked in return whether he had not heard of the great sheikh whose poetry was famous throughout the world. The result was that the sheikh was summoned to the royal presence and requested to give some counsel. "Thou canst bear nothing with thee from this world to the next," was the rejoinder, "save a recompense or a punishment, and the choice now rests with thee." The monarch felt the reproach, so the sheikh on leaving whispered in the royal ear the following verses. "A monarch is the shadow of God. The shadow should be a close companion of its substance. The vulgar soul is incapable of good, if the sword be not king. All the right that appears in the world is evidence of the monarch's rectitude. A kingdom derives no advantage from him whose every thought is an error." During the same reign one of the ministers submitted to Sadi 5 questions, to which a reply was invited. 1. Is a demon or a man the better? 2. How should I act if my enemy will not be reconciled to me? 3. Is one who performs the pilgrimage to Mecca better than one who has neglected that duty? 4. Is a descendant of Ali 4 better than other people? 5. Would the poet be pleased to accept a present of a turban and 500 dinars as subsistence money for his birds? The messenger, the bearer of the letter, thought that he might with advantage be considered as one of the birds, and accordingly put into his own pocket 150 dinars, leaving a balance of no more than 350 dinars. The reply of Sadi, which betokened that he had detected the theft, ran thus. "Thou hast sent me an honored present and money. May thy wealth increase, and thine enemies be trodden under foot. For each dinar may a year of life be thine, so that thou mayest continue to live 350 years. On receipt of this poetic effusion the minister gave an order on the treasury for no less than 10,000 dinars. But the treasurer had in the meantime passed away, a circumstance which the poet brought to the notice of his patron. When the latter learnt what had occurred, he increased the donation to no less than 50,000 dinars, with a suggestion that some portion of the money should be devoted to the erection of a house at Shiraz for the accommodation of travelers. 4 of the questions propounded appear to have remained unanswered. Sheikh Sadi died at a very advanced age in Shiraz, AD 1291. His tomb, originally held in much esteem and decked with extracts from his own poems, has more or less fallen into decay, though enough it is believed remains to mark the resting place of one of Persia's most gifted poets and men of letters. Sadi, such is the description of him by a native annalist, was short, and not very handsome. His head was extremely long, truly indicative of a grave and saintly aspect. His dress was eminently simple, consisting of a turban, a long blue gown worn over his undercoat, and a stick in his hand. The character of this venerable bard was highly noble and becoming a great person. He was extremely courteous and affable to his friends, and generous towards his enemies. In wit he surpassed every author of his age, and his humor was so successful that he could make the most silent and melancholy face laugh in his company. He was a boy among the circle of experienced youths, a sage among a society of divines. In a word, he was an accomplished scholar, an excellent master of pure Persian eloquence, an unsullied instructor of divinity, and a consummate painter of life and manners. The works by which Sheikh Sadi, the nightingale of 1,000 songs, is best known are: A. The Bustan, an exquisite poem embodying moral precepts and rules of life. B. The Gulistan, possibly the most widely read book in Persian literature. Well indeed did Eastwick, when publishing a translation of this charming volume, write, "The schoolboy lisps out his first lessons in it, the man of learning quotes it, and a vast number of the expressions have become proverbial." When we consider, indeed, the time in which it was written, the first half of the 13th century, a time when gross darkness brooded over Europe, at least darkness which might have been, but, alas, was not felt, the justness of many of its sentiments, and the glorious views of the divine attributes contained in it, are truly remarkable. See, the Pand Namah, or Scroll of Wisdom. 5. A small volume of poetry embodying precepts which would do no discredit to the philosophy of this, the 20th century of the Christian era. Concise and elegant, the work is most popular throughout the length and breadth of the Persian-speaking East. This may indeed well be the case, inasmuch as, in addition to beauty of diction, it is written in a meter which flows in easy cadence, and fixes the words of the poem on the mind. Hence the lines are committed to memory to an extent that is probably not surpassed by any work in the Persian language. Byron's lines known as the Lover's Last Adieu may be quoted as an example of rhythm identical with that of Sadi's Scroll of Wisdom. The two may with advantage be quoted side by side. The roses of love glad the garden of life. Karima ba baksha yabar halima. It only remains to add that no translation of the Scroll of Wisdom has been published in this country during the last 100 years. Gladwin's text, in itself somewhat imperfect, was issued with an appended translation in 1801. Though in Bombay some 20 years ago an Indian scholar rendered it into English. Both works are out of print, and for all practical purposes it may be said that a translation is not procurable by the British public. Perhaps, therefore, no apology is needed for the present work. Arthur N. Wollaston. Glen Hill, Walmer. May 6, 1906. Sadi's Scroll of Wisdom. In the name of God, the merciful and compassionate. O merciful being! Take pity on our condition. For we are captives in the snare of lust. We have no protector save thee. Thou art the all-sufficient forgiver of sins to us sinners. Keep us from the path of error. Forgive us our trespasses, and show us righteousness. In praise of Muhammad. The peace of God be upon him and his posterity. So long as the tongue is fixed in the mouth. May the praise of Muhammad be a source of delight. The beloved of God, the most exalted of prophets. Whose pillow is the glorious firmament. The earth-conquering horseman with his chestnut al-Burak, 6. Which passed beyond the palace of the cerulean portico. Address to the soul. 40 years of thy precious existence have expired. Yet thy life hath not passed beyond childhood. Thou hast spent all in lust and license. Not a moment hast thou acted according to righteousness. Rely not upon unstable life. Be not confident that thou art safe from the sport of fortune. In praise of generosity. O soul! Whoever spreadeth the table of benevolence is famous in the world of liberality. Generosity will make thee renowned throughout the universe. Generosity will secure thee happiness. Beside generosity there is nothing in the world. Nor is aught more current in any market. Generosity will be the source of delight. Generosity will be the harvest of life. Freshen the heart of the world by generosity. Fill the globe with the renown of thy generosity. Forever be steadfast in generosity. Since the Creator of the soul is beneficent. Description of benevolence. The man of good parts mocketh choice of benevolence. For mankind becometh prosperous from benevolence. Be conqueror of the world through kindness and benevolence. Be a chief in the kingdom of kindness and generosity. Benevolence is the attribute of men of piety. Benevolence is the duty of the prosperous. Benevolence is the touchstone of the alloy of sin. Benevolence is the medicine for all ills. Be not, if you can, void of benevolence. That you may snatch the ball of excellence owing to benevolence. In Condemnation of Parsimony. Were the spheres to fall to the share of the miser? Were fortune the slave of the miser? Were the wealth of Korah 7 in his hand? Were a quarter of the universe subservient to him? The miser is not worthy that thou shouldest mention his name. And were fortune to become his servant? Pay no regard to the property of the miser. Speak not of the miser's property and possessions. Were the miser a devotee both on land and sea? He would be, so it is ordered, unknown in paradise. Though the miser be rich in possessions, he would suffer distress, as if he were a poor man. Benevolent persons enjoy the fruit of their wealth. The niggardly suffer grief from their gold and silver. Description of humility. O soul! If thou makest choice of humility, the people of the world will be thy friends. Humility will augment thy station. Just as the moon gets light from the sun. Humility is the source of intimacy. For exalted will be the dignity of friendship. Humility exalteth a man. Humility is a decoration to men of position. Every one who is human is humble. Not becometh a man save magnanimity. The man of wisdom mocketh choice of humility. The bough laden with fruit rests upon the earth. Humility will increase thy reputation. It will get thee a place in the glorious paradise. Humility is the key of the gate of heaven. It is an ornament to position and dignity. Whoever is accustomed to humility will enjoy rank and power. Whoever is born to command, it is more than delightful to find in him humility. Humility will make thee beloved in the world. Thou wilt become dear in men's hearts as their own soul. Do not withhold humility from mankind. For thus thou mayest withdraw thy neck, from perplexity, as it were a sword, from the scabbard. Humility on the part of the exalted is commendable. If a beggar be humble, it is his nature. In condemnation of pride. Beware, O son, that thou dost not become proud, lest fortune thereby slip from thine hands. Pride on the part of a wise man is not comely. Sad is such demeanor in the case of a prudent person. Pride is the habit of the ignorant. Pride doth not proceed from men of intelligence. Pride caused the fall of Azazel 8. And led to his being ensnared in the prison of the accursed. Whoever is by nature arrogant, his head is filled with pride beyond imagination. Pride is the source of adversity. Pride is the nature of the evil disposed. Since thou knowest about pride, why dost thou pursue it? If thou actest thus, thou doest wrong. On the excellence of learning. Sons of Adam from learning will find perfection. Not from dignity, and rank, and wealth, and property. Like a taper one must melt in pursuit of learning. Since without learning one cannot know God. A man of wisdom is a student of learning. For the market of wisdom is always brisk. Whoever is fortunate as regards eternity mocketh choice of the pursuit of knowledge. This pursuit of knowledge is a duty on thy part. Even if it be necessary to traverse the earth. Go, seize fast hold of the skirt of knowledge. For learning will convey thee to everlasting abodes. Seek not but knowledge if thou art wise. For it is neglectful to remain without wisdom. From learning there will come to thee perfection as regards religion and the world. For thine affairs will be settled by knowledge. As regards avoiding the society of the ignorant. O soul! If thou art wise and intelligent, make not choice of the society of the ignorant. Dart from the ignorant, as it were an arrow. Mix not with them, as it were sugar and milk. If thou hast a dragon for a friend in a cave, it is better than to have an ignorant associate. If the enemy of thy soul be intelligent, it is better than an ignorant friend. From the ignorant proceed not but bad deeds. And no one hath heard therefrom but base words. No one in the world is so despicable as the ignorant. For nothing is more worthless than ignorance. The end of the ignorant will be the abode of the lost. For the ignorant seldom end life well. It is best that the ignorant should be abased. For it is fitting that the ignorant should find disgrace. It is well to shun the ignorant. For from them will arise disgrace in this world and the next. Description of justice. Since God hath given thee all things to thy desire, why dost thou not eventually bring forth the fruits of justice? Since justice is the adornment of royalty, why dost thou not fix thine heart upon justice? Thy kingdom will be established, if justice cometh to thine aid. Since Nushirwan 9 made choice of justice, his name is now held in remembrance for his goodness. Peace befalleth the kingdom from the effects of justice. Since from justice the kingdom attaineth its wishes. There is no better architect in the world than justice. Since naught is more excellent than righteousness. Make the world populous through justice. Fill the hearts of mankind with delight through justice. What will be the end thereof to thee? Even this, that thou wilt have the name of a righteous monarch. Dost thou wish a token of good fortune? Close the door of oppression against mankind. Withhold not thy favor from thy subjects. Gratify the desires of those who seek justice. In condemnation of oppression. The world witnesseth desolation owing to failure of justice. As it were a beautiful garden from the autumn gale. Do not give way to oppression in any case. Lest the son of monarchy suffer decline. He who riseth the fire of oppression in the world. Occasioneth a sigh on the part of the people of the land. If a tyrant riseth a sigh from the soul. The anguish createth a flame over land and water. Do not oppress poor helpless people. Without further thought as to the narrowness of the grave. Be not disposed towards the marketplace of oppression. Be not neglectful of the smoke of men's hearts. O man of haste! Be not an oppressor of humanity. For of a sudden the wrath of God will overtake thee. Do not oppress the poor humble people. For without doubt the tyrant passeth to perdition. Description of contentment. O soul! If thou acquirest contentment, thou wilt exercise sway in the kingdom of repose. If thou art pinched with the trials of poverty, then, in the estimation of the wise, wealth is not. The poor man is not disgraced by poverty. For mankind attain glory from penury. Gold and silver are the glory of the rich. But the poor have inward repose. Be not distressed if thou art not wealthy. Since a sovereign cannot extract taxes from the desolate. In all circumstances contentment is preferable. Whoever is born under a lucky star is happy. Enlighten thy soul with the radiance of contentment. If thou hast any token of good fortune. In condemnation of avarice. Beware. Thou that art snared in the net of avarice. Lest thou be mad and intoxicated with the cup of greed. Waste not thy life in the acquisition of wealth. Since an earthen pot is not of the same value as a pearl. Whosoever hath fallen into the snare of greed, giveth the harvest of his life to the winds. I grant that all the wealth of Korah 10 is thine. That all the riches of the habitable globe are with thee. But in the end thou wilt be enveloped in the earth. Like the helpless, with distress of heart. Why dost thou distress thyself with the anguish of gold? Why dost thou bear the burden of distress, as if thou wert an ass? Why dost thou undergo anguish on account of wealth? For it will of a sudden be swept away. Hast thou thus given thine heart to the picture of money? For with the taste thereof thou wilt become a penitent boon companion. Thou art become such a lover of the face of gold, that thine affairs are distressed and thy head upset. Thou art become as it were a prey to its pursuit, that thou thinkest not of the day of judgment. Let not the heart of that base wretch rejoice, who on account of the world scattereth faith to the winds. Description of obedience and worship. When fortune is a person's slave, his heart is perpetually disposed towards obedience. It is not fit to turn aside one's head from servitude. Since fortune is obtainable from obedience. Happiness is procured from obedience. The heart becometh illumined from the light of obedience. If thou girdest thy loins with submission, thou wilt open the door of everlasting happiness. The wise man doth not turn his head from obedience. Since no excellence is more lofty than obedience. Keep thine ablutions freshened with the waters of obedience, so that tomorrow thou mayest be free as from fire. Establish thy prayers with sincerity, so that thou mayest attain everlasting prosperity. Enlightenment of soul springeth from obedience. Just as the earth deriveth light from the sun. Worship the Creator. Sit down in the portals of obedience. If thou makest choice to worship the Creator, thou wilt be a chieftain in the kingdom of fortune. Raise thy head and keep not abstinence in thy pocket. For paradise is the abode of the abstinent. Lighten the lamp of thy soul with piety, that thou mayest become happy, like the prosperous. Whoever is clad with the garment of religion hath no fear for the trials of the day of judgment. In condemnation of Satan. O soul! Whoever is overpowered by Satan is night and day in the snare of sin. Whoever hath Satan for his ruler, how can he return to the way of God? O soul! Beware that thou dost not give way to sin, that tomorrow thou mayest be free as from fire. A wise man avoideth offense, as sugar melteth in water. A man of good disposition doth not commit sin, lest he becometh as the light of the sun concealed by the clouds. Do not give way to thy lusts, lest thou be suddenly snatched to perdition. If thine heart doth not turn aside from sin, amongst the lowest of the low will be thine abode. Do not destroy the house of life with the torrent of bad and improper actions. If thou keepest away from sin and iniquity, thou wilt not be far from the garden of paradise. In explanation of the wine of affection and love. O cupbearer! Bring wine as it were a garment of fire. For a man with a soul desires this, religious, intoxication. The ruby wine in the golden goblet is soul-inspiring, as it were a beautiful pearl. Welcome is the fire of desire to those inspired with love. Welcome are the delightful pains of the lords of love. Bring this wine as it were the water of immortality. 11. For from its fragrance the soul findeth deliverance from grief. Happy that soul that desires a friend. 12. Happy that person who is ensnared in the bonds of affection for him. Happy that person who is enamored of the face of the friend. Happy that person whose abode is the nook of the friend. A friend as it were wine like soul-refreshing peace. Wine, the purest like a beautiful face. Happy men of soul who adore wine. Happy the flavor of wine to men of spirit. As to the nature of fidelity. O soul! Be firm-footed as regards fidelity. For money hath no currency without its stamp. If thou turnest not the rein from the path of fidelity, thou wilt be a friend in the hearts of thine enemies. Turn not thy soul's face from the abode of fidelity, that thou be not ashamed before the face of thy friends. Place not thy foot outside the street of fidelity, since tyranny is not fitting in the case of friends. It is wrong to separate thyself from beloved ones. It is contrary to fidelity to sever thyself from thy comrades. Want of fidelity is the attribute of women. Do not learn the unseemly conduct of that sex. On the excellence of gratitude. Whosoever hath a heart filled with gratitude to God, it is not becoming that he should tie up the tongue of praise. Teach thy soul not but gratitude to God, for it is necessary to praise the Creator. Thy wealth and possessions are increased by gratitude. Victory entereth thy door, owing to gratitude. Wert thou to show gratitude to God till the day of reckoning, thou wouldst not discharge 1,000th part of thy duties. Yes, it is best to lisp thy gratitude. For gratitude to him is an ornament to Islam. If thou restrainest not thy tongue from gratitude to God, thou wilt attain everlasting felicity. In explanation of patience. If patience is thy helper, thou wilt attain everlasting happiness. Patience is the attribute of prophets. Those who practice religion turn not aside from this direction. Patience openeth the door of the desires of friends. For save patience there is no key for them. Patience giveth thee the desire of thine heart. For at the hands of mankind thy difficulties are solved. Patience is best in every case. For in this sentence is much meaning. Patience giveth thee thy desire. It relieveth thee from pain and misfortune. Patience is the key of the door of thine aspirations. The enlarger of the kingdom of desire. Exercise patience if thou art religious. For haste is the attribute of devils. Description of rectitude. O soul! If thou makest choice of rectitude, fortune will become to thee an auspicious companion. A wise man doth not turn aside his head from rectitude, since from rectitude a man's name is exalted. If thou breathest truth at morn, thou wilt avoid the darkness of ignorance. Beware that thou breathest not save rectitude, since the right hand holdeth preeminence over the left. Naught is better in the world than rectitude, for in the rosebud of rectitude there is no thorn. In condemnation of lying, when a person followeth after unrighteousness, where will he find deliverance on the day of judgment? Whosoever assumeth the habit of false speaking, hath no splendor for the lamp of his soul. Falsehood putteth a man to shame. Falsehood depriveth a man of dignity. A wise man blusheth at a liar, since no one esteemeth such a person. O brother, beware that thou speakest not falsely, for a liar is despised and without repute. Naught is worse than unrighteousness. O son, therefrom ariseth loss of fair name. On the vicissitudes of fortune and differences of station. Regard this globe, resplendent like gold, the roof of which is firm without pillars. Regard the curtain of the revolving sphere. Regard its glittering lamps. 13. One is a shepherd, and another a sovereign. One is a suppliant for justice, another covets a throne. One is happy, and another miserable. One is prosperous, and another unfortunate. One is a payer of taxes, and another sits on a throne. One is exalted, and another debased. One sitteth on a mat, and another upon a throne. One is in rags, and another is clad in silk. One hath no bread, and another revels in wealth. One is disappointed, and another prosperous. One is afflicted, and another rolleth in riches. One hath a transient fate, and another is established throughout eternity. One is full of health, and another is sickly. One is full of years, and another is a mere stripling. One is filled with righteousness, and another lives in sin. One is given to prayer, and another is addicted to deceit. One is upright and religious. Another is immersed in an ocean of crime and wickedness. One is of good disposition, and another is of hasty temper. One is patient, and another is quarrelsome. One is at ease, another in pain. One is in difficulties, another is prosperous. One is a chieftain in the world of luxury. Another is a captive in the snares of adversity. One is established in the rose garden of comfort. Another is associated with anguish, pain, and distress. One is like a rose resplendent with joy. Another is distressed at heart, and pained in soul. One girdeth his loins with obedience. Another bringeth his life to an end in sin. One passeth day and night with the Quran in his hands. Another sleepeth intoxicated in the corner of a wine shop. One is fixed firm as a peg at the door of religion. Another is a sinner in the way of infidelity. One is prosperous, learned, and intelligent. Another is unfortunate, ignorant, and abashed. One is a champion, agile, and a warrior. Another is faint-hearted, indolent, and without courage. One exceedeth all limits in the possession of wealth. Another is in want of bread and means for his family. One hath the taper of joy resplendent. To another bright daylight is as night. Against placing hope Indiana created beings. For this therefore place no reliance upon fortune. For it will suddenly deprive thy soul of life. Put no reliance upon a numberless army. For it may be that thou wilt not be aided by victory. Put no reliance upon kingdom, position, and rank. For they existed before thee, and will remain after thee. Do not wrong because thou sayest wrong on the part of a true friend. Good fruit doth not grow from bad seed. Put no reliance on majesty and power. For suddenly will arrive the command to give up thy soul. Many are the monarchs of exalted rank. Many are the warriors who overrun kingdoms. Many are the fierce warriors who scatter armies. Many are the lion-like men who smite with the sword. Many are the moon-faced beauties of graceful figure. Many are the lovely ones with stature like the sun. Many are the newly arisen with lovely cheeks. Many are the freshly decked brides. Many are the famous, and many are the fortunate. Many are they like the cypress in stature, and many are the rosy-cheeked beauties. Who have rent the garment of life. Who have drawn the head within the wall of the grave. With such the harvest of their life hath been scattered to the winds. So that never hath any one a trace of them. Link not thy soul with this earth and its vain delights. For misfortune may rain upon it from heaven. Set not thine heart upon this material abode. For thou wilt not find therein delight for thy soul. Place not thine affections upon this ancient and ruined dwelling. For it will not be void of grief and pain. The world hath no permanence, O my son. Pass not thy life therein in negligence. Fix not thy heart upon this perishable abode. From Sadi receive this one piece of advice.